to the new cash withdrawal policy by the CBN that actually sets limits for both individuals and corporates at 100,000 and 500,000 weekly, respectively, for those categories. Immediately we heard the news, we actually called for an emergency meeting, and the outcome of our meeting was that we appreciate the CBN, we believe and key in to the cashless policy of the CBN. But the reality is that at this time, we stand more to lose than to gain with the policy. And that's why we immediately came to the National Assembly to activate every possible tool at our disposal. We've also been, we've expressed our views on the pages of the newspaper and TV. And we'll just be reeling out some of the activities that we have engaged in trying to see that what our plights are. Top of it is that there is no clarification or clear distinction as to the role of mobile money and bank agents in the policy that was released. What that means is that if that policy is followed and adhered to in total, over 1.4 million POS operators and their dependents and many other persons who are plugged into the value chain of our business will lose their jobs, because 20,000 naira would send us out of business if that is all we have access to in a day. There are several other factors that will be reeling out as to what would like to bring to the notice of the public, government officials, the CBN, and those concerned. As I begin to just wrap up this opening remark, and I allow my colleagues just deal with some of the critical issues that we have in front of us. We've been here at the National Assembly since Tuesday. We've been trying to meet the relevant stakeholders. So I would like to use the opportunity to appreciate the National Assemblies. The National Assembly, rather, I'd like to appreciate the Senate and the House of Rep. And since we've been here, we've been able to formally submit our letter of concern. And I'd like to just mention that we have submitted our letter of concern to Senator Obasani, the Chairman Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions. Would also like to mention here that we also submitted our letter to Senator Oji Uzo Kalu, who is also the vice to Senator Obasani. Would also like to mention that we submitted to Senator Matthew A. Urogede, thank you, Urogede. Then we also submitted to Honorable Victor Nwokolo, who is the chairman for Banking and Currency. We also submitted to Honorable Tolulope Akonde Shadipe, who is the chairperson, House Committee on Diaspora. Honorable Afis Ibrahim Kawu, who is the vice chairperson for Currency and Banking. And also we submitted to Senator Ibrahim Hassan Adeja, who is the vice chairman, Senate Committee on Public Accounts and Environment. We want to thank all of these key officials of the National Assembly, and they have assured us that they are on the side of the people. They are on the side of Nigerian people in regards to this matter. In closing, I want to state very clearly that once again, the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria believes in the CBN, and we actually support the cashless policy of the CBN. But our appeal is that stakeholders should be properly engaged so that this issue can be better managed. Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to welcome Mr. Sarafaddin Fasasi to take us through some of the technical issues concerning this policy that we think are very important and we need to bring to the fore. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my President. Mr. Major concerns, and it's not only limited to ours, because about 1.4 million agents are servicing about 100 million rural populace in Nigeria as of today. So several areas in Nigeria today, there are no banks. Several local governments, as big as they are, there are no functioning financial institutions. So they depend on agent locations. And if we also ask, even people in the city, how many times have you stepped your feet or foot into the banking hall this year? They will say, not at all, because we easily and conveniently do our transactions at agent locations. So if this policy is implemented the way it is, that means the banking hall will be jam-packed again. Then we are expecting people to cross the River Niger from as far as Aguara to come into Kotangora, where that is the only closest bank, a typical Nigerian environment. So that is the problem we are trying to create. So we are having these following concerns. Number one, the policy is a blanket policy, and we need to call the attention of the CBN to it. We remember when they started stamp duty policies, it was the same error they made by saying we are collecting stamp duties on all electronic transactions. Before we now call their attention that, oh, you are killing financial inclusion, because financial inclusion are people that you are trying to encourage to do transactions, and their transactions are between 1,000 and 10,000. Immediately they had this, they quickly went back and exempt transaction of 1,000 to 10,000. So because of that, we are here today to also quickly call the attention to certain concerns, because they may not know. And before they cause this calamity, we need to call the attention. Number one, they assume that we are limiting ATM transaction quite all right to 20,000. They assume POS is also ATM. POS is different from ATM. ATM is only cashing out, is only cash out. POS is doing both cash out and purchase. You can collect cash from POS, at the same time you can use your card to buy in the stores. So this policy, the way it is today, if you limit a customer card transaction to 20,000 naira, that means the merchant that is selling television of the value of 100,000 will not be able to sell, because a customer can only buy something of 20,000 naira. So we need clarification from the CBN to be able to say the limit on this is on cash out, not on purchase, so that all our businessmen and women will be in business. Number two, agent categorization. The CBN, they are very fond of brandishing numbers of agents in Nigeria. We have created jobs, we have created about this 1.4 million Nigerians, but when they are rolling out policies, they don't categorize those agents that are helping them to drive those innovations. When you look at that policy today, they only say we have individual accounts, corporate accounts. They are not talking about agent accounts. Now you have an agent that is servicing about 20 to 50 customers in a day, and you still want this agent to service those unbanked areas, then you are limiting them to 20,000 naira. You are seeing them from the prism of a customer, of the prism which is entitled to just 20,000 naira. You should categorize them as agents who are there to service 20 to 50. That means they must be enabled to have access to cash that can service 50 to 20 customers. So if you are calculating that, that means you are expecting an agent, a customer to get 20,000 naira from an agent, and is to service 20 or 20 or 50. That means he should have access to 20,000 naira in 20 places. I think that's logical enough. We are calling that their attention to that. Another one is we are encouraging people to come and be using digital platforms, and we feel pity for the general Nigerians. What is the status of digital platform as of today? Is it not the same platform that cannot accommodate the transactions of today, that today, when you get to POS point, they will say there is no network, that you should do transfers. So, because the transactions that are coming in through the POS and other channels, they are too much for the existing infrastructure. And now we are forcing everybody. Already we cannot cope with the existing transaction. We are now forcing everybody to come to that platform that is not stable. At least today, you can only use POS maybe 2 times in a week, because all the leading switches, they are always down. Downtime in a week is about 2 days in a week. And go and confirm this by the rate of failure of POS transactions in the last 1 week is more than 40%. So these are the platform we are preparing to migrate people to. The CBN must focus on how to make this, strengthen the infrastructure. And not all the banks, digital platforms can accommodate transactions. There are banks in Nigeria that if you do transfer anytime from 8 or 11 p.m., your money can hang because they don't have that infrastructure. Not all those digital banking department of banks are strong enough to drive digital transactions. So number 2, another one that we need to raise is the dispute resolution mechanism. Today, a lot of people are skeptical of even using POS because when it debits them, they don't get reversal automatically. That means if you use POS here today and you travel to Kotangora or Jalingo, when you get to the bank to lodge a complaint in Jalingo, they will ask you to go back to the POS. So are you coming back because of 2,000 naira to Abuja to come and meet the POS man? So the banks as of today, they are not taking responsibility for the account they have created for you, for the card they have issued for you. So on this area, a lot of people have lost a lot of money because a lot of us can no longer go back to the bank to travel kilometers to go and lodge complaint. And a lot of people also lodge complaints today. They are not getting the reversal of their money. So those dispute resolution mechanisms, they are important to be put in place. Number 3, you are asking the rural people to come into digital platforms. Before you can open an account for them, you need identity. Today, a lot of our agents are involved in NIN enrollment, BVN enrollment. I must confess to you that those platforms, they are inefficient. They are epileptic. Even people in the city, if you go to the bank today to create an account, the greatest problem they have is verification of your name. Because the platform is always down. So now that means we are encouraging people, bring them to the bush, from the bush, to come and open an account in the banking hall, but the platform they want to use for identification is not available. So we have to be concerned about all that. If you enroll for NIN today, if you take it to telcos to register your SIM or to open an account, they will not see it because validation takes place after registration automatically within 7 months or 8 months. Because they will not see it. They will say it's not valid. That is when masses now go back to agents that they have given them fake NIN. There is no fake NIN, but the platform of NIMC is epileptic because a lot of queue there. These are things that the people that are making a policy are not taking into consideration. Today, a lot of agent locations, we have stopped USSD transfer because this is what is leading our members to the prison. By the time you transfer to them, police will come the second day and arrest you to provide the person that transferred to you. So if you are now encouraging bank transfer, USSD, and all these channel transfers, then receiver of the money should not be at a liability to what initiator. Because before you can initiate a transaction, you must have provided PIN and password. So why should I that receive such transaction be liable, to fraud and arrest and police harassment? So if you go to grocery shops, they are no longer accepting transfers because they don't want troubles. So these are the necessary infrastructure that we expected CBN to have discussed with the industry stakeholders and ensure that there is a channel for resolution of all these myriads of challenges before they can now drag all of us to the cashless policy. And on a rounding up note, they used to make a mistake. They think rural people are poor. And that is why you are limiting them to transaction of 20,000 naira. Rural population and economics are doing the highest volume of transactions in Nigeria. They can check the statistics. Because a bag of maize today is about 22,000 naira. And a local farmer will have at least 10 or 20 bags to take to the market. And you are limiting such an individual to 20,000 naira. A cow seller is going to, a full animal will sell a cow at minimum of 600,000 naira. And you are thinking he's poor, that you should be issuing tier 1 accounts, which is limited to 50,000 naira transaction a day. Now, you are number one, he doesn't have access to the digital platform you are talking about because it's limited to tier 1 account. So the only thing he has access to is the cash transaction, and you are taking it away from him again. So if we must be ready to fully implement the cashless policy, that means we must be able to give him an account to cater for his own transaction. So on a submission, these are our concerns, and we think they are valid enough for CBN to suspend that policy for now. Call the industry stakeholders, let us have a framework and implementation plan so that we can move from let's say if it is 40% cash, let us on a yearly basis reduce from 40 to 30 to 20 to 10 and to 0. Instead of saying everybody should now come to 100 digital transaction, it's going to cause a serious problem and a serious crisis. The countries that have achieved digitalization, they did not achieve it by force. Mobile phone in Nigeria were not achieved by force. Yeah. So all the platforms you are encouraging us to move to, is in reality, they are not platforms that can drive transaction without people losing their money. We will cite instances. There have been an attempt to roll out QR code because a lot of our people, they believe in copy and paste policies. They travel to China. They saw a Chinese man scanning and making payment. They came to Nigeria, they want to replicate that using QR codes. For the last 2 or 3 years, they have introduced a QR code. Ask them, what is the adoption rate of QR codes? They have started e-Naira for the past 2 years. Tell us the adoption of e-Naira. So you are not asking questions. Why are people not adopting those channels? So we are ready to work with CBN, and we are ready to sit with them if they are ready to also work with us to help Nigeria to solve this myriad of problems before forcing them into digital emergency. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.